Welcome to Every Woman Empowered's Chit Chat. I am Shawna J. Serniak, the founder of Every Woman Empowered, and today we have certified yoga instructor and Every Woman Empowered's happiness ambassador, Jani, and alongside international artist Jani Galarneau, and our special guest, international speaker, artist, Walt Disney legendary Imagineer, and Jim Henson Puppeteer, Terri Hardin. Welcome, Terri.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Terri. I'm so excited to have you here on board. All of us ladies got dressed up in our Disney characters. We have Neela from Beauty, and we have, of course, Minnie Mouses in the house, and I am Pocahontas.
Beautiful.
So, we got to ask you, what is a Walt Disney legendary Imagineer?
Okay, well, Walt Disney's legendary Imagineer is someone who can take what they imagine and make it come to life. No matter what it is, An Imagineer can make that happen. So when Walt was going to create Disneyland, he named the top artists he brought together to help him visualize his dream Imagineers. So imagine, engineers. We engineer what Walt imagines, Imagineer.
Wow. That is amazing. And how many years have you been doing this?
I've been an Imagineer for 30 years.
Just 30?
Just 30, and I've been with Disney about 40 years, yeah.
Wow.
Off and on doing all kinds of stuff, Imagineering, movies, all kinds of stuff.
And with Jim Henson as a puppeteer, how many years have you been doing that?
I met Jim in 1982. Wow. He found me, he came to California, and he found me in 89. And I've been with him ever since.
Wow, that is amazing. I just can't imagine what joy you bring to your work every day and what excitement that it is to be able to touch so many lives with your expertise and knowledge. That's so exciting. I know Jani had some questions in regards to this. Jani,
yes,
you want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. So, Terri, in this time of lockdown or whatever quarantine, whatever we want to call it, do you think it's harder to be a creative, or are we forced to open doors as a creative?
As a creative, our mission, our calling, if you will, is to inspire, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
We don't just think out of the box, we live out there. Don't we? Right?
The whole
we live out of the box. So we can't succumb to the pity party. We can't get together with everybody and wham, my business is closed. Wham, my shows are not there. I mean, we deserve it just like everybody else is creatives. We deserve it. This is happening. But we can't go down that rabbit hole and live there. If we go down that rabbit hole and live there, who's going to help these people who are not so creative, not so thinking out of the box, survive?
That's true.
So we lead from the front and we just make it. So for example, if your gallery isn't open or your work you sell, in person, then now you got to embrace that internet and social media and make it happen. Now is the time, and there's no one better who can do it than a creative.
Wow, that's you know what, you're right. It's about now taking yourself beyond your comfort zone and test the waters and see. And if this is not the time to do it, I don't know when. Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And Neela, you had a question. Sorry, I missed you in the beginning there.
Oh, good. So, Terri, your life's pretty awesome. You have such a childlike wonder about you. you're well known now in the industry, but for anybody just starting out, how do you recommend that they sort of brush off the haters and push past that so that they're not just raining on your parade and you can persevere and continue on?
Well, first of all, thank you for those wonderful words. That's very sweet of you to say. People say you're as humble as the dust. Yeah, that's baloney. Don't be humble as the dust. You got to have some chutzpah in you, right? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is to pretend you have blinders on. Focus on your goal, pretend you have blinders on. And then don't allow anybody to change your goal. Yes? Only you are allowed to change your goal. No one else is allowed to do that but you. So if your own mind is getting in the way, that's when you need to kind of battle it. But understand that you're going to be tested. To be an Imagineer is the best of the best. To be a Henson puppeteer is the best of the best. Trust me. God did this. And then he waited for me to get up. Are you getting up? What, are you down? You staying down there? You're taking way too long, and you're getting this. And sometimes you're so beat up, you go, I just can't anymore. And then the voice says, really? You obviously didn't want it bad enough. So believe me, those things are going to come at you left and right, and sometimes knock the wind out of you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the time to say, how much do I want it? And what is it going to take for me to get back up, dust myself off, as they say, and just keep swimming, right?
Right.
No kidding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for the questions. Great.
So, Jani, you got another question.
I always have questions. Yes, absolutely.
You might even have room for more.
So Terri, who makes you laugh the hardest and why?
Don Knotts.
Oh.
Do you know who Don Knotts is? Andy Griffith's show, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. I cannot not look at Don Knotts and just fall. I mean, the man has the most elastic face I've ever seen. His body is made out of a rubber band. I think if I'm really feeling sad and down, I put on The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. And then I also love The Incredible Mr. Limpet, where he turns into an animated fish. If you haven't seen those, you got to see him. But anyway, he's it for me. And I know some people may not know who he is, but Google him and check out those two movies. And I know you'll be a fan. He's just absolutely a joy to watch. And if I can be a smidgen of that funny, I want to be.
Well, we have the time to look it up right now. So
yeah, go ahead.
and what was the
one
one
in the comments?
He was a fish? Don Knotts was a fish?
There's amazing. If you guys love animation, there is a really great movie called The Incredible Mr. Limpet, Limpet, I believe.
Yeah.
And what happens is Don Knotts plays the character who wants to be in the service, but of course is too weak to be in the service. So he somehow falls into the water and turns into a fish. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And then you get to see the rest. It's absolutely a charming, wonderful, joyful film.
Well, yeah. I do remember Don Knotts. I don't think, Neela, do you even know who Don? Nope, she doesn't even know who Don Knotts is.
Check him out.
To be 30 again. Hey, like, wow, like, who's Don Knotts?
Out. What a joy.
Yes. Neela, you had another great question.
Terri, what's the closest thing to real magic?
Snowflakes.
Good answer.
Wow. So I didn't get to see my first real snowflake till I was 30.
Oh.
And because I live in California, where is this?
Well, that'll happen.
Boo you!
As a kid, I used to make them. Did you ever make them out of paper? Maybe not, because you guys know.
Yes.
But someone like you guys who are familiar with snowflakes woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in Utah, and she said, "Would you like to see a snowflake?" Because I guess there's a certain snow that you must have in order for this snowflake to be creative. First of all, they were as tiny as my fingernail and as intricate as my cuttings. And I got emotional,
Oh,
so emotional, because it really was a God is God moment. How can something exist that is that intricate and that tiny? It just, I feel like if you don't believe in God and you see a snowflake, your mind is going to change.
Wow.
Yes.
It is magic.
We take it
Yeah,
for granted.
it gets me. Yeah.
there is
Great.
absolutely something magical about the first snowfall year where everything's just covered in this beautiful glistening blanket of snow. That absolutely, I can attest to that.
I love
Wow.
snowflakes. I mean, I love the snow, but when I saw a snowflake, now when I'm near snow and it's falling, I'm always hoping it's snowflake snow, because
Right.
I've only seen it once,
Yes.
ever.
Yeah, and like in Canada, we take it for granted. We complain when it snows, but thank you for bringing back the value of what we have right here, and to not take for granted the beauty of Mother Nature, for sure. Now, Terri, have you ever seen Northern Lights?
I've never seen them live. I've only seen people show me what they could really be like, and I want so bad to see them.
You know,
Everyone says that's a magic moment in itself, isn't it?
it is. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, a couple years back, they actually in the city. You could see these Northern Lights, and I've never seen it in the city. It's always out in the country,
Oh,
and it was like
It
you
was
could just
amazing.
touch it, and you'd whistle, and it would just fall, and it was just amazing. So
I can't.
yes.
I mean, that is just, to me, that is fantastic. That is just something that I would really love to experience.
Awe-inspiring, right?
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Terri, I mean, you've been dealing with Disney for like you said, 40 years. What is your favorite Disney character?
Well, now remember, or maybe I didn't even say I'm saying remember. You may not even know this, but I was a huge Disney fan. I live in California, and so I went to Disneyland my first time when I was 4 years old. But
Me
Tigger's
too.
yeah. Oh, what a heartthrob. But Tigger's my favorite character. Why? Because you can see obviously that I'm so Eeyore. So everyone says, "Why, Tigger? You're so Eeyore." But no, it's just because I'm bouncy and I'm exuberant and I'm joyful, and so is he. And I have to say, since I was a little, they've been calling me Tigger, so it just stuck. I love this character. And I'll tell you, we have a little time, so I'll tell you, this is a toy I made for Mattel, not the doll, but the Tigger over here was a project that they hired me to sculpt, right? But they took it away from me, and I burst into tears. When they saw I was crying because I didn't get to sculpt Tigger for Mattel, they gave it back. The moral of the story is, if you really want to do something and they take it away, cry. Maybe that'll work.
Good tip to all the listeners out there.
But it's the first toy I ever got to create for a company,
Aw.
a hotel company, and
That's
I
amazing.
got to do that little Tigger, and it was funny. You cry over it. You're like, why am I crying? But when they gave it back to me, I was also equally joyful. So.
Jani, who's your favorite Disney character?
Disney princess, and it's Mulan.
Oh.
Yeah, she does kick some butt, doesn't she? Right on. And what about you, Neela?
Elle from Beauty and the Beast. She was just somebody that kind of looks like me growing up. There were so many blonde pop stars and everything, so it was something that I could relate to. And I think she has such a love of learning, and I do as well. And people are trying to push her into one box, and she's like, no, I'm gonna go do my own thing. So yeah, I can definitely relate with Belle. She's my favorite.
No kidding.
Yeah, she
How about
wasn't
you,
a classic crier.
She's what?
She wasn't one of those classic,
Right.
help me.
No,
No.
damsel in
Her
distress.
own
Yeah.
person.
She had her own confidence, and she knew what she wanted. Absolutely.
It's a great
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. My favorite is actually Snow White. I remember the first time I ever went to a movie at a drive-in, and it was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And I just was so mesmerized. I mean, it was the 70s, and I just love the animation. I love Snow White, and I mean, what woman doesn't want to have 7 men catering her to everyone, right? I mean, hello, So,
So you.
and she got Prince Charming too. So I mean, there you go. She got it all, But yeah, there was just something about that movie and being a young kid and seeing it on a big screen like that at the drive-in. It was just magical. And it always resonated with me. And I'm always kind of, whenever I see Snow White, I kind of move over and want to buy something, and it's always usually Snow White, because it's just something that reminds me of my childhood memories, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And she is the character that made the rest all happen.
Yes.
Obviously, Walt's dream child was Snow White. And you may, when you look at her, people who are really into Snow White don't understand why they don't choose every sculpture. And the reason that they don't is because most sculptors who sculpt for Disney make her facial features like the other women in the princess line. And if you look at Snow White again, her eyes are not one eye apart like most people. They're 1.5. She actually has wider set eyes. And so a lot of Snow White people that doesn't look like her. You may not know that her eyes are set wider apart, but from how you feel that's not her. And it's a shame that so many sculptors just, in my opinion, phone it in and make it like every other one when they're not.
That's right. When I went to Disneyland, I've been to Disneyland a few times, but when I went and brought my son, he was 8 at the time. I don't know. I have to say I was probably more excited than he was, because it's like, oh, there's Donald Duck, there's Snow White, like there's Mickey, and I'm pulling him everywhere, and he's just like, okay, Mom. And to me, it was like brought back that whole childlike emotion, and I think that's what Disney does. It's a place where a lot of people don't understand that it's clean. Like you won't find you won't find gum or garbage anywhere. It's pristine. Walt Disney had this vision in the 50s, and it's the one place you can go where that hasn't changed. I mean, there's other, there's Disney World and that sort of thing, and you go to the ones in Paris and such, but this one, I don't know, to me that's a real magical place for me.
Yes, well, it's the only park that Walt walked. Walt never got to walk into Walt Disney World. He started to dream about it. He bought the land, but he never got to walk it. He died before it opened. Wow. So that's what makes Disneyland so very special. People go, oh, it's too small. It's so much bigger, Walt Disney World. Well, bite me. This is where, this is where Walt walked. You get to walk in his footsteps. You get to stand where he stood. You get to pose like he did, because Walt walked this park. Once it was open, he walked it almost every day. So it's something you cannot recreate, and we should never forget that, talk about someone who was told he was an idiot and he was crazy for doing this.
Right.
And look, this is your example right here.
Mm-hmm.
He never swayed from the goal. And boy, he gave everything. He sold his house and came home and told his wife, I just put the house up, I'm building Disneyland. And she was like, excuse me, what? Pack your bags, honey, we're building Disneyland.
He had that vision that no other person has ever even come close to, but 20 minutes is almost up here, but I just have one more question for you. I know we shouldn't be asking all these questions and get all the information out of you right now, because we're going to have to invite you back. And
I'd love that.
Questions. Jim Henson, tell us about Jim Henson and how he impacted you in your life.
Well, Jim Henson is amazing, and honestly, and I'll try to keep it as tight as possible, but I fell in love actually with Frank Oz. I thought Frank Oz was the most brilliant puppeteer I'd ever met. I thought Jim was good. but I thought Frank was brilliant. You know, I just loved everything about Frank Oz. But when I met Jim, I could see that he was, you know, when you own a company, you have many hats. You're the puppeteer, hopefully, because this is why you did it. But you're also making sure scripts are right, sets are good. You're doing a lot of administration stuff. So once I met him, I realized what a genius he truly was, and and still joyful and fun and playful. It's great to be with grown people playing with dolls.
Yes.
You know? Talking to yourself.
Pure joy.
You're sitting there talking to yourself, and nobody cares. They think you're a genius. You know, how's it going? Oh, it's all right. You know.
Oh,
Nobody
Terri.
They just think, wow, what a genius.
Yeah, exactly. Ladies, Terri, unfortunately, we're already out of time. I got to tell you, it's just been wonderful to have you. And like Neela said, your childlike way of looking at things, but as well, you're such a phenomenal storyteller, and you basically paint that picture for us. We could see it in front of us when you talk. So I just want to thank you so much for coming and joining us here today. And for those who maybe want to see some of your recent work, is there somewhere that they could go check you out?
You can Google me. That's the easiest. Okay. I'm everywhere, I'm happy to say. You can. That's where a lot of my work. I've been on a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. I do have a website. It's under construction, and it's terrihardin.com. You're welcome to go there, TerriHardin.com, and sign up. And that way you can keep in touch with me. You can ask me questions. I have a Patreon page, which is a membership site you can be a part of, and I do Facebook Lives every day. Or not every day, Facebook every Monday and Friday, and then a Zoom call on my private page, my Patreon page. I do a Zoom call every Wednesday because I guess people are getting bored due to COVID.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I've been watching you on Zoom and on Facebook and such, and you know, I've enjoyed it so much. So for those who are watching right now, you definitely got to check her out. She's phenomenal, and the stories you will hear are incredible. She knows almost everybody.
She is amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Terri. You have a beautiful one. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Bye.
Bye.